Good day, Mr. Malunga. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thanks, Faith. And how are you?
I'm okay, thank you. Thank you so much for inviting us into your corporate home. So, this conversation is coming on the back of the recent discovery of the new Covid19 variant, the Omicron variant. How does that fit in your business operations?
We think that the COVID pandemic has possibly been one of the worst disruptive factors that we've experienced in the last 18 to 24 months. And when you think about it, that we have had this virus now for almost 2 years, and it's not letting up. Looks like we're still going on with the virus. But at the same time, we do take comfort that there's a lot of positive developments that has happened in the country, and that has also happened globally in terms of the awareness. Just people being aware of the protocols that they must observe to mitigate the risk of COVID infection. And at the same time, the development in sciences, which culminated in the development of vaccines and the uptake that has happened in terms of the population in the country, the population globally, and more specifically our own employees. The uptake that we've had for vaccination has been very, very encouraging. To try to put that into context, we are practically on 100% vaccination at the moment. We've tidied up our policies and procedures in terms of the people that we employ. And for you to be eligible to be part of us, you have to be vaccinated, and that we are determined to ensure that we enforce that policy.
Okay, so that also means to say that you are going headstrong in battling COVID-19.
Look, we are determined to fight it, and we are contractors. We are always working against all odds. We are risk managers by design, and therefore we've got a fairly aggressive and lively risk assessment framework. And COVID is one of the risks that we've identified. Our own measures that we have in place, we're not too scared at the moment. We think that we've developed enough knowledge, enough muscles to be able to confront COVID. Whether we get into another hard lockdown or not, that's something that still has to be seen. But otherwise, we've got the mental capability and determination to confront it head on.
So moving away from COVID a bit into your operations, with the current water crisis that we're facing in Zimbabwe, Harare to be specific, you are currently undertaking a construction project at the Southview water reservoirs. How much was injected into that project?
I won't want to go into the specificity of the investment that was put in there. That I'll leave to the preserve of the client. And all I can say is it's a water infrastructure. Is being commissioned as we speak. The engineers from the city of Harare, our own engineers are working collectively to ensure that the project is successfully commissioned.
Okay. So under the NDSI 1 housing project that was launched, government pledged to complete 220,000 housing units. That's by 2025. Is Masimba taking part in this initiative?
You know, what you must understand is that government has got a global objective in terms of the target to meet. There are so many players that are in the ecosystem that are key in the delivery of those housing units. We are aware of some of the initiatives that government is taking towards the delivery of those housing units. But what you must take note is not as if government is going to be single-handedly financing and developing those housing units. They've created a framework within the country that attract private investors like yourselves, if you are interested, to participate, to build housing. So the financial institutions in the country are getting quite aggressive in terms of housing delivery. Employers put in quite a lot of house ownership schemes that support the government in that objective. What we can also tell you is on a very small scale, Masimba has got a few housing projects that we are executing on our own balance sheet in two centers, one in Bulawayo and the other one in Shurugwi. That will add towards the government objective. But for us, what we are excited about is just the environment that government has created that will enable private capital to participate in the delivery of the housing units.
Okay, so these houses that you're developing in Bulawayo and is it Shurugwe, are these cluster homes?
No. These are not cluster homes. These are low cost homes for the low income end of the market.
Okay, so for the past 4 to 5 years, your revenue has been on a growth trajectory, as your financial statements have shown, and most recently you recorded $2 billion dollars. That was from the 1.3 billion you recorded last year. What was the major contributing factor to that price?
You haven't seen the biggest jump as yet. The biggest jump is still to come.
Okay.
That is for sure. So we remain on a growth trajectory. But the one biggest contributor to the growth of the organization has been infrastructure development in the country, primarily highway construction. And also the impact of the refurbishment of infrastructure in Manicaland following the devastating effect of Cyclone Helene. So in 2020 and 2021, you will note that roads construction contributed significantly towards the overall numbers that you mentioned.
Okay. Talking of highway construction, you undertook the contract of the Harare Bridge Highway. How many kilometers is Masimba covering?
We just shy of 60 kilometers at the moment, and we've just embarked on our next phase, what we call phase 3B, which is another 20 kilometers, which on completion will take us to 80 kilometers. But again, without talking politics, but you must know, the investors must know that this is lively. These are things that are happening. In terms of where we are now, the overall road distance that is open to traffic on the Harare Bridge Highway is just shy of 300 kilometers, which is half of the distance between Harare and Bridge. Okay. And as time has gone by, through the learning effect and so forth, the delivery timelines have improved quite significantly. So we'll look at when we started at the beginning of the project in terms of where we are now, the number of months that it used to take us to deliver the project compared to where we are now is much better. And therefore, I'm confident that if government continues to put in capital on that project, that the balance of the 300 kilometers, which is obviously spread between various contractors, will be completed as per the government timelines.
Okay, so let's talk of your loan book. Has this road developments been any contributing factors to your loan book, to the growth of your loan book?
Okay, look, when we talk about loan book, we talk about debt. Okay, look, we know we are on a growth trajectory, as you've identified. In 2020, our growth was phenomenal. This year, our growth is also phenomenal, and we're still projecting that going into 2021. That will continue to be growing. So essentially, we'll be building capacity in terms of equipment, in terms of working capital, and so forth. But when you look at the investment that we have put in plant and equipment, the investment that we have put in land banks, that we put in working capital, and so forth, you realize that the debt that we have is a very small proportion of what we've invested. So by and large, we've been funding our growth out of a combination of debt and own generated revenue. And by far, we have funded this better part of it using our own generated resources.
Impressive. So we know that the company, you do import some of your materials that you use in construction. And now with the foreign currency shortages that the country has been facing most recently, how have you been dealing with that?
I think there's two aspects to that. You did mention the trading update. I'm not so sure whether we disclose that statistic or not, but what I can also tell you is where we are now. We are generating 40 to 45% of our revenue is in dollars. Then the balance is in ZWL, but at the same time, with the difficulties associated with the auction, we still believe that it has been an effective mechanism in terms of allocating the scarce foreign currency which is available. So we've participated at the auction Doesn't always work as we would anticipate, but generally speaking, we would say it has been much more successful than the other way. So it's a combination of the auction plus the revenue that we are generating in foreign currency.
The infrastructure sector was allocated a good $156 billion on the proposed 2022 national budget. How does Masimba want to leverage on that? Do you think that you might have the construction sector was allocated enough money, or more could have been done?
As we people normally say in economics, that there's unlimited wants or insatiable wants versus limited resources, and this government is coming from a background where the resources are constrained. But one thing that we must acknowledge is the extent to which they've prioritized infrastructure in terms of coming up with capital expenditure budgets and meeting those timelines. So yes, we would have wanted to do more, but there's only so much work that can be done at the same time. But again, when you look at the amount of work that has been done in the last 3 years, and try to fast forward to the prospects of the 160 billion and its contribution in the next year or so, without any doubt that will have a positive effect. We're seeing quite a lot of infrastructure development projects in water, in energy, in transport that is happening at the moment. So we think that money will go a long way towards improving or resuscitating the quality of our infrastructure.
Profound. Now, there was the recently held COP26 summit. Countries pledged to cut down their emissions by 2030. And now, as a construction company, I'm sure you do use a lot of timber, and Zimbabwe is pledging to cut down deforestation by 2030. Does that in a way affect your operations or threaten to affect your operations?
Look, if we use timber, it's a very negligible effect of the resources that we use. The biggest source of pollution on the African continent is our normal, the usual population cutting down trees to try to provide energy, particularly in rural communities. That's the biggest issue that we must be worried about. But otherwise, timber that we use in construction is very negligible. But by the way, the only instance that you would actually use timber is maybe when you're doing houses, okay, for trusses and so forth. We do support reforestation programs and so forth. So we buy from suppliers that are ISO certified, that have got pragmatic environmental standards in terms of reforestation and so forth. But I can deal with your question from another front. So we pay particular attention to the environment, and therefore we put quite a lot of care in terms of the resources that we use. So even where we abstract water, we measure that water on a monthly basis. Where we use oils, we measure that. Where we use fuels, we do measure that. Where we do pits anywhere else, we don't just extract without putting in place programs to make sure that we can actually rehabilitate those type of any damage that we may have inflicted on the environment. So, but from a COP point of view, what we must be worried about is thermal energy. That's what we must be worried about. And that conversation we can have it another day.
Okay, so this just means that Masimba is helping deal with climate change, and you're making your part.
We are definitely making our part without any doubt. I can tell you, we even measure the emissions on our vehicles. Where we make noise, where we do all sorts of things, we've got enough instruments within our capability to make sure that there's very little damage that we're causing on the environment.
Oh, box standard. To wrap up the conversation, Canada, going forward, what can we expect from Masimba? Any plans of diversification, expansions, mergers, anything that we can look forward to?
Look, we are on a growth trajectory, and anything is possible. So we are seized with a number of initiatives at the moment that will enhance shareholder value, that will improve our efficiencies operationally, and to make sure that at strategic level as well, we are able to focus on those areas that we believe we can deliver value to our stakeholders. So as we go forward, I think what we should expect, number one, maybe we should expect a little bit of restructuring in terms of our portfolio. As you are aware, we've got diversity, very diverse business segments, so please expect a bit of time on that. We are looking at new markets within Zimbabwe and possibly regionally as well. So we are seized with that. So please pay particular attention to what we'll be saying. And there's so many other players that are participating in the market, and we believe that there's room for collaboration. Whether you're collaborating with somebody who's from outside the country, collaborating from somebody local, for purposes of scaling up the capacity. So we are a company for the future. And therefore, we believe that for us to be able to meet those ultimate objectives, we must pursue any supportive strategy that will ensure that we deliver on that promise.
Okay, so let me just take you back a bit, Canada. We see that is Masimba taking part in the helping out of small contractors? So let's say it's small contractors who are building houses. Does Masimba help those people out?
Yes, we do. So it's more than just that. And it starts off at employment level. Number one, we're very particular about the people that we employ. So you will notice that we actually have got graduate trainee development programs. We've got apprenticeship training programs where we recruit students from all A-level and the universities so that they become part of us, to become part of the future. And then we also look at the demographics of the people that we employ between male and female. And our industry has always been very male dominated. Our target for 2021 was to have the female component at 25%. We don't think that we're going to be able to achieve that. We're about 19% at the moment. And then when we look at our suppliers and our subcontractors, we also pay particular attention to that, where we can empower the girl child, where we can subcontract to female-led organizations that we do and do quite well deliberately. And I can give you an example. We've got a project at the moment. It's a big project that we're working on, where the demographics on that project alone is more than 30% women. So we've got women operating dozers, that are operating lorries, that are operating graders, and so forth, and we do take pride, and they do a much better job.
Oh, that is true. I mean, ladies are, after all, very strong in that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Canada, for sitting down and having this conversation with us today.
Okay, thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome.
Equity Live presents the complete online interactive presentation solution. Hosting AGMs, media and analyst briefings has never been this simple, efficient, and affordable. Communicate globally through a combination of high-definition video and your prepared multimedia presentation from any location of your choice. Interact with your invited participants from all over the world in question and answer sessions and voting sessions in real time on our safe, secure, and affordable platform. Contact Equity Live for a free customized demonstration. Equity Live, real-time presentation solutions.